Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Premier League preview show from Bookmakers TV. I'm Gav from the LFC Day Trippers. That's Liam, United fan Liam, and Spurs fan Jamie from Daily Hotspur. Look, we're going to touch on the match last night. We're going to look back at last weekend. We're going to look forward to this weekend, give some predictions, talk about whatever comes up in the chat as well, and then we go from there. So, where we start, Liam?
Yep.
Man City. They've gone top last night after a 3-1 away win at Arsenal. What did you make of it? Because I don't even think they had to be that good and came away with a 3-1 win.
I didn't even think City were that good at all. I thought first half Arsenal outplayed them. If Nketiah could finish his chances, then I think it would have been a different story. If they had Jesus in for that game, I think it would have been a different story. I thought Odegaard wasn't his usual self, and he probably hasn't been for a few weeks, actually. Ever since we've been raving about him on here,
Yeah.
he's dipped a performance level or two. But second half, City came out and they did turn it on for about 20 minutes, and they looked good. They looked like their usual self. De Bruyne started to pick up the ball in those wide areas and get on the ball a bit more and interchange it with Gundogan. I thought Haaland actually, that was his best game. I think a few people have said that, but I thought that was his best overall game. He obviously scored, but he looked more involved in the game. Was getting involved in that final third a bit more than usual, and up and down the pitch. And then, Arsenal just switched off a little bit, I thought. They come out racing as they do most weeks, and then in the second half, they just sort of turn it off a little bit. Maybe they've just run out of legs. The squad depth isn't there like City has. When you can bring Foden off the bench, it's always a nice asset to have. And then once City go 2-1 up and then 3-1 up, obviously it's game over with 10 minutes left. I think it's huge from a mental point of view. They obviously beat them in the FA Cup, where the teams were sort of rotated a little bit, but they've gone to the Emirates. Everyone knew the pressure was on. They've gone there. They've got the 3 points, and they're level on points now. In the table. I just think from here on in, it's hard to say because obviously there's so much to go in terms of games to be played. But City look like they could go on a run now, and that last night just sort of cemented for me that they will probably run away with the league.
It's funny because we were doing a show last night on Air Channel where it was literally after the City game. We just happened to come on at 10 o'clock and the game was just over. And, we're kind of asking the question, what's going on with City and the charges against them, even against Villa. They looked very kind of defiant in what they were doing. Every goal they celebrated was real defiance about it. Rodri in particular from an early goal. And Jamie, if you look at that, has that given City that extra to kind of prove people wrong or, batten down the hatches? And then you look at Arsenal, and people on the show last night were saying, look, they've played the same team or the same personnel an awful lot this season. And some Arsenal fans even feel that they're being found out a little bit. No, that's not a slight on them. It's like this is the way they play. Like Liam's mentioned there, they come out like a house on fire most games. But teams have seemed to figure them out a little bit, and Arsenal are just struggling to turn the screw in certain games now.
Yeah, do you know, it was interesting when these charges came out from the Premier League. It was going to be interesting to see kind of which way it was going to go. Was it going to be Manchester City? Was this going to kind of really rock them and, they were going to kind of really dip out of form or would it be the opposite way? Would this galvanise them and give them something to really get behind? And for sure, it was. I think yesterday, I don't think it was too much of a surprise for me. I think because Thomas Partey was out, I think that was such a key factor in yesterday's match. I remember last season, they lost him for the last part of the season, and that really affected them. So. It was kind of real no surprise to see them struggling without him. And at the moment they're in a real dip. I think, in their first 19 matches, they dropped 7 points in total. And, you look at the last 3 matches, they've dropped 8 points already. So there's been a real dip of form for Arsenal. I think they're running out of steam a little bit. I don't think completely, but there seems to be a bit of a drop off. I think all teams at the moment are kind of in and out of consistency. I saw a really interesting kind of picture of the league table and just the form of each team, and it was kind of the top 8 teams, and it was so mixed across the board. So, for as much as Arsenal have really dropped off in form, they're not the only team. I think obviously we know how much football's been played this season with the World Cup as well. So, I don't think it's a huge concern for Arsenal fans that they have dropped that 8 points in the last 3 matches, because I think there was always going to be a drop off. I think, to consistently play the same side, always going to be very demanding of them. So I think Thomas Partey was obviously a huge loss, and that for me was decisive in yesterday's defeat for them.
It is a big loss, but I think it maybe backs up the point, that you probably need a couple more. Yeah, I'm not saying they can't win the league. I think they're well within the shake-up to win the league. But, even if Arsenal finish second or third or whatever it might be this season, they've definitely improved on last season. But they'll definitely look and say to themselves, you know what, we need... Look, I know Partey is missing and Jorginho comes in, but he's not I don't think he's a long-term fix. I think Arsenal tried to get a long-term fix and couldn't, and settled on Jorginho for 18 months. I don't think he'd be at Arsenal in a year's time. And Arsenal... They shouldn't get too down over this slump. It's probably teaching themselves right now and teaching them something for the summer, where they might say, we might need an extra centre-back and another midfielder, which they're definitely looking at. And maybe another attacker in that Odegaard kind of mould, where not to replace Odegaard, but someone to come in and be similar to him. Because Odegaard's going to go through a slump. He carries an awful lot at Arsenal, but it's going to be very interesting. I think Arsenal fans, even themselves, are writing themselves off very quickly here. Kevin, the chat there, says there's a lot of games coming up for City and they're far from their best. Squad depth is a problem for them. So it's very open when you look at the fluctuation in form of lots of teams in this league. And right now I don't think any team can break 100 points now. I think that's gone after last night with Arsenal. And they're all going to drop points. You're probably looking at late 80s to win the league. So it just shows the fluctuation in the league, I think, as to where it might end up. But Arsenal are still right in it. City are still right in it. I think United are still right in it. But we'll wait and see. Looking back on last weekend, though, Liam, I'll come back to you. 2-0 win for United away at Leeds. And were you a bit fortunate?
Oh, massively.
Yeah.
It's a scoreline that flatters us hugely, because for 75 minutes, United rode their luck big time. Leeds could have and should have scored a few, possibly. And we just didn't look like we had any attacking impetus, had no sort of cutting edge in the final third whatsoever. Funnily enough, it was the change that Ten Hag did, where he brought Weghorst as a number 10 and put Rashford through the middle, that actually unlocked Leeds' defence. As odd as it sounds, I think Weghorst is such an oxymoron in the sense that he's actually not that good in the air. He's not great with his head, but he is brilliant with his feet. And for a 6'6" striker, you don't really sort of associate that, those characteristics with him. But I thought it was brilliant when he sort of went a bit deeper, got on the ball more, and actually, obviously, fed Garnacho, got the assist for him, and then Luke Shaw put in a brilliant ball for Rashford as well. So you rode our luck, yes, but got the 3 points, and huge 3 points they were, especially after dropping points against Leeds in the week. So sometimes you just need it. You need to get over the line, and that's what United showed. Again, without Casemiro, got one game left on Sunday against Leicester without him, and obviously played Barcelona tonight in the Europa League.
Emmett says Leeds bashed United for a large part of the game, and Leeds just could not finish their dinner, he says.
It's very true.
But Leeds are struggling. I think the point at Old Trafford was big for them, and it felt like they could kick on. But they get beaten by United, and they're right down there. But the difference for me and United is last season United would have lost that game. Just lost it. They would have lost it 2-1 or 3-1 or wherever it might have been, and they would have went. But that's just the way United are at the moment. But they're not playing well. But he still has them kind of well structured. There's still frailties there, but they're getting through it, and that's a positive for United, because if they're getting through it now, a bit like I said about Arsenal a few minutes ago, they'll identify things where they'll want to improve in the summer and bring them onto another level again. But I still think the way it's going and the sort of results United are putting together, they're right in a title race. And I know you don't want to say it, but I think they are. And I think if you took United on their own and looked at it, you went, not too sure. But what's going on around them gives them every chance. Like, they win a game and there's a defeat for other them top two, you're looking going, they're within 3 points of the the lead here. So it's interesting. It's interesting for United at the moment.
I'd rather stay quiet on the title race until about April, May. And then
yeah. I know you will. I just keep doing it every week until you buy. But no, like, it's just like Jamie said, that the form table's all over the place. And if you put, and I'll get on to Liverpool in a minute, but if you put 2 or 3 wins together on the bounce, you're kind of going, geez, they're 9 massive points compared to seasons gone by. We go, oh, we won 3, but so did they, and so did they. You know, there was always 2 teams ahead, just winning everything. But it's one of those. Before I go to Liverpool, though, Spurs, Jamie.
Yes.
I don't know what to say. You know,
yeah, neither do I, unfortunately. I mean, it was a horrible performance, unfortunately, and I think it exposed really our weaknesses in this squad at the moment. Obviously, Christian Romero was suspended for the game, and Japhet Tanganga was the guy to come in and replace him, and that is, you know, the gulf in difference between those 2 players is just immense. For me, Japhet Tanganga is a guy who, for a very long period of time, has just not been good enough for Spurs. I'm not even sure he's good enough to be in the Premier League. And then you look at the rest of the back line, obviously Eric Dyer as well, a guy who I think lots of Spurs fans for a long time has feel as though he's not quite good enough to be in a team that's obviously wanting to compete for major honours. Then, of course, you look at Ben Davies, Clement Longley. Central defence is just such a real concern for Spurs. And we were totally exposed on the weekend. I think the other big issue now at Spurs is Antonio Conte, because again, it always feels like he just doesn't want to be there at the moment, and that's a real concern for a lot of Spurs fans. You know, his mood's not been great, and yeah, that's a real big concern now for Spurs. Whether we've got a manager that wants to be here long term, and it does feel at the moment Spurs are kind of just coasting through the rest of this season. Obviously, we are just about still in the Champions League. We are just about still in the race of the top 4. So there's stuff to compete for, which is a shame. But really, kind of the direction of where we're going is we just feel really lost at the moment. So yes, it's not the best time to be a Spurs fan. I've actually just come back from Milan. I enjoyed a very good couple of days there, but the result aside, it was a nice little trip.
It's a 1-0 defeat away in Milan, and you know, you still have the home game to come, and I actually still fancy Spurs to go through in that tie. I'm being honest. Stephen S. Murphy, I think it's Stephen Murphy is his name. He says Bentancur gone for the season is a massive loss for Spurs. It's huge, and it's right off the back of that transfer window, so you can't really do anything about it. And when you looked at Spurs midfield last night, you were kind of going, yeah, I can kind of see where the worries are. And then when you have the worries of a centre back on top of that, you're leaving an awful lot for Kulusevski and Son and Kane to do then, aren't you?
Yeah. For me, Bentancur has been our best player this season. Obviously, you know, you've got the likes of Harry Kane, Heung-min Son, Dejan Kulusevski, Romero, who are, you know, all top players. But Bentancur has been the standout guy this year. So to lose him for 6 to 8 months is just ridiculously massive blow for Spurs. So that's gutting. I have to say, though, obviously, we mentioned about these 2 young guys coming into the midfield, Oliver Skipp and Pape Matar Sarr. I thought they did a really good job, actually, against AC Milan. I was really surprised. Obviously, 2 young guys coming into the team, making their Champions League debuts away at the San Siro. And for me, they were 2 of Tottenham's best performers. So I have to give those 2 real big credit. I thought they came in and did a really good job. And I do hope that they start again on the weekend against West Ham. Because I was really impressed by those 2. So yes, Bentancur is a huge loss, and you know, I don't think anyone's going to come in and fill that void. But I have to kind of give it any credit to Spurs players. It was Oliver Skipp and Pape Matar Sarr at the San Siro. I thought they did very well.
The problem with Spurs is that as soon as they get a bit of momentum, the consistency just falls away.
Yeah,
and they can never really go on a run.
It feels like one problem for them. If they have one problem,
it's
a massive problem.
Yeah.
So I think there's areas of real quality in this squad. You know, we know the front 3. I think on their day, it's arguably one of the best front 3s in the league. You know, so we've seen that some of the fullbacks I think have got quality there as well. We've mentioned the midfielders. The problem is the lack of consistency. Is because there's no foundation in this team, and I think every top team is built from the defence, and you've then got to go and build the rest of the team. And unfortunately, you know, Spurs just don't have any foundations, and that being the defence. I said central defence is a really big worry for Spurs at the moment. When Romero's not in the team, Spurs are a completely different team, and I think that's why we're seeing these inconsistencies, because you've got no solid foundations to build from. And again, centre back is a real worry for Spurs for the rest of the season.
Look, we'll touch on the game at the weekend in a few minutes. Liverpool was a victory for Liverpool. I can't remember the last time I've said that, but it wasn't so much the victory; it was the manner of it. You know, Klopp apparently last Sunday took the players in and basically drew a line under everything and said, right, that's all gone now. It starts here. Sent them off for 2 days, told them not to come back in until Wednesday, and you know there was talk of they'd had really good training Wednesday, Thursday, Friday over the weekend, and the intensity was there. And I was a bit skeptical because I'm kind of going, they always look like they're a bit intense in training, and you always see these training videos coming out and everyone's having a lovely time, and I'm kind of going, I'm watching this for weeks where they're having a lovely time at Kirby and training, and then they come out and like they've only met each other 10 minutes before the whistle went. But you know, there was a concern there when you see Henderson and Fabinho in the starting 11, because they haven't been in the starting 11 I think since Brighton away, going back to 5-6 weeks ago, whatever it was. And I was concerned over the fact that Everton were going to be well drilled, working hard for the new manager, good on set pieces at both ends of the pitch, and look hungry to win second balls. That was my big concern. But Liverpool, it was a slightly different Liverpool to what you've seen in the last while. They were quick out of the blocks. They were hungry. They were winning second balls. They were snapping into tackles, and they were killing Everton if Everton gave them a chance to break on them. Now Everton do hit the post, and 10 seconds later it's in the net. But that's what Liverpool used to do to you. You might get a sniff at a goal at Liverpool, and then 3 passes later it's in your net. And I thought it was really good from Liverpool. I thought they controlled the game more or less from start to finish, bar that one that hits the post really, and a tame enough header from Davies. I think it's Davies is the guy's name. At the back post, nearly close to the end. But it was a different Liverpool. Darwin Núñez was up and down. Gakpo gets his first goal. Salah's on the score sheet. The young lad Bajcetic in midfield is just. He plays. He usually plays as a 6. He plays as an 8 the other night, and he's into every tackle. He's closing down. He's passing simple. He's passing long. He was exceptional as an 18-year-old, and by far and away the man of the match. So I don't know whether it's a turning point for Liverpool. They've another big game, and we'll talk about it in a few minutes. But it was just nice to see a Liverpool team with not only a tempo but a direction as to what they're doing. Because you can run around as much as you want, but if you're not going anywhere with it, what's the point? So it was a good win for Liverpool. They probably still need to win the next 2 to 3 league games to get anywhere near this top 4.
Do you think Bajcetic might kind of keep his place in the team now? Because for me, he was really impressive. I thought he did almost everything in that midfield.
Yeah, I said it on our show last night, and we're doing another show tonight, and he'll definitely come up in it. He's the first name in midfield right now, without doubt. Yeah. Because Thiago's injured, Henderson's been stinking the place out, Fabinho's being the same, Keita's being okay. You know, Keita's being okay in that midfield with Thiago and Bajcetic. But right now, I don't care what age he is. He's in there. He's winning tackles. He's passing. He's running. He's closing down. He's not afraid of the physical thing. You see, he played a lot at centre-back. He used to play a lot at centre-back, and he has played that defensive midfield. So he's not afraid of the physical stuff. But right now, he's the first name on the team sheet in Liverpool's midfield. And it doesn't matter what age he is or the experience he has. If someone is doing it, you let them do it. You know, especially when you're not going through a great period of time. He will hit a slump at some stage. All players do, especially at that age. But yeah, I'd have him in. I'd be nearly appalled if he's not on the Liverpool side to play Newcastle at the weekend. Liverpool need to win this. They need to probably win the next 3 league games to give themselves a chance. But if you get a chance, go and watch him. Watch a bit of him because he's really, really good.
You've got a massive week coming up, haven't you? You've got Newcastle in terms of the league.
Newcastle, Real Madrid at home. And then there's a great question after that.
But I was speaking to one of my Liverpool friends as well, and he was saying, well, actually, if you look at it, I think Liverpool, if they come through this period and get some good results, you know, all of a sudden the race for the top 4 looks almost like back on. I don't know how you feel as though, you know, that's still a possibility for Liverpool this season.
It definitely is. It definitely is, because I think if we were to beat Newcastle and then win a game in hand, I think we'd be 3 points off Newcastle. You know, so it's a crucial period of time. But Liam's right. Newcastle away. Tuesday we have Real Madrid at home. Then we're away to Palace on the Saturday. Home to Wolves on the Wednesday. Home to Manchester United on the Sunday. So between now and the 5th of March, which is 2 weeks, we've 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 big games for them in the league. 2 of them at home, 2 of them away. And I would say Liverpool probably need to take probably 10 points out of 12 there. But I think they just need to get on a roll and keep that belief. So it's one of those, fault done maybe, but there was signs there that they can do it when they want to, and you'll probably question now, is it just, can they do it consistently? Is the leg still there? But we'll have to wait and see. But looking forward to the weekend. United play Leicester, Liam. Home game, isn't it? At home to Leicester. With everything that's going on in the league, is it just another one where you just go and win that? Just go and win and see where it takes you. Because I know Leicester beat Spurs at the weekend, and it was a great result for them, but they should be beating Leicester.
Yeah, totally agree. I thought I watched that Spurs game against Leicester, and I actually thought as bad as Spurs were, and the Iheanacho goal where Dyer just sort of stands off is pretty appalling. But as bad as they were, Leicester were bloody brilliant. They were really, really good. And Harvey Barnes and Maddison just interchanging 1-2s here and there. They looked really sharp. So Rodgers has had a real difficult, sticky period during the winter, but hopefully he's coming out of it for Leicester's sake, and they can go on a bit of a run. I'm just hoping that run sort of curtails this weekend and then restarts again afterwards. But yeah, in terms of United, I think it's one of those. We've got Barcelona tonight where I think that's going to go negatively. If I'm being totally honest, I think Barcelona will probably score a couple, and that time might just be out of hand for us. And then we'll focus back on the league and the EFL Cup and the FA Cup. So I think, Sunday, Casemiro is out again. It'll be Sabitzer back in with Fred. And it's just one of those, get through it, get the 3 points and roll on and see what happens tonight. And if we're still within touching distance, then obviously Casemiro comes back in and you just never know. But I think United and Ten Hag is very clear in his press conference, they just want to go under the radar. Those teams that they're not being really talked about as much as Arsenal and City in the title for obvious reasons. There's no two ways about that. But I think United will just want to go under the radar this season. If they can get a bit of a title run going towards the back end, then fantastic. If they can pick up the EFL Cup and go far in the FA Cup or Europa League, then fantastic. But it's just about building consistency and performance. That's what United have lacked for so many years. And we're actually seeing patterns of play over a consistent basis throughout the games and throughout the weeks that Ten Hag is building. And when he gets into the summer and he can bring in some more midfielders and some better quality players throughout the squad, then hopefully next year, that's when the pressure's on for Ten Hag and United to actually go and properly challenge for a title, I think.
Yeah. Let's do predictions on this game. Liam?
Well, it's at home, so that means we'll concede, but we should win 3-1.
I have 3-2 United.
Wow.
I was thinking about it and I thought to myself, Leicester going forward could cause problems, but I don't think they're good enough at the back. Jamie?
I'm gonna go 2-1 Man United. I think Leicester is certainly going to give United a good game. I do think that Liam's right. I think they gave us they were very good against us. I was very impressed by Leicester, and obviously I think there was a win before that at Villa Park. I think a 4-2 win. So they are building a bit of momentum. But Manchester United have just been so good at grinding out results. Obviously with the game being at Old Trafford as well, I think that will see them just about go over the line. And I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for Man United.
Okay, Spurs host West Ham, another London derby.
That's a real big game.
Yes.
It is a big game for both ends because you just said United there. Sorry, Emma Kavanagh has 3-1 to United for this weekend. He's in the chat with that. You spoke about Spurs hanging on in there for the top four, and Liverpool are behind Spurs, but I'm looking at them. I'm looking at Spurs, but I'm targeting Newcastle, and I'm saying to myself, if you can just catch them, whoever's in fourth, catch them. Now earlier on in the season, I wasn't like that. I always look at who's top. And if you can, bring the amount of points you are behind the top team down, you should be fine. But at this stage now, it's probably just targeting fourth, and Spurs are probably doing the same. But they host West Ham. West Ham are in trouble down there at the bottom. It's just a massive. There just seems to be low, and there's another one I'm going to touch on really quickly before the end. But there just seems to be every week where it's going, they have this. There's no kind of dead rubbers here. There's no kind of they're the mid-table and there's nothing but huge one for Spurs, huge one for West Ham. And I think it's a huge game for David Moyes because I think he's that close to going at West Ham.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's 1 win in 10 now for West Ham as well. So they are in big trouble at the moment. I think they're 16th in the table. So real struggles for them. And I do think this is going to be a tough game for them. I think, as I mentioned earlier, I do think Romero will make the difference in coming back into the team. And I do think Spurs will win this one. We mentioned so inconsistent at the moment, this Spurs team. But I think that's partly because, when Romero's out of the team, I think that is just such a big loss. Hopefully, we'll see a midfield partnership, as I mentioned, of Skip and Pape Matar Sarr. And I thought, again, I was really impressed by them. So I do think Spurs will go out and win this one, especially given how poor West Ham's form has been. Obviously, it's at home as well. But it's just such a weird atmosphere at Spurs at the moment. And maybe West Ham might fancy that and really kind of see this as a great opportunity to get a result. And yeah, I mean, it really could go any way, I think, this one. I said, just the atmosphere at the moment, it feels so strange because, we don't know whether, we're going to see a really good performance this week, like we saw against Manchester City. We don't know whether we're going to see a really poor performance, like we saw against Leicester. So it's so difficult to tell at the moment. As I said, just the uncertainty with Conte's future. Is this team good enough to compete for the top four? So just so many question marks. So West Ham should fancy coming and getting something here, but I do think as I said, with Romero back, a fairly strong midfield partnership. I do think Spurs will just about win this one.
What score?
I'm going to go for 3-1 Spurs. I do think we will win this one. I said West Ham have just been really quite poor at the moment, and I think we should have enough to win this one, especially at home. So yeah, I'm going to go for 3-1. But it's just so unpredictable at Spurs at the moment. So yeah, 3-1 Spurs.
I have 2-2.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Spurs might struggle in midfield.
Yeah.
And I think that'll give West Ham a foothold in the game. But I don't know. I don't think West Ham are defending well enough. I think both teams can get at each other. And usually that would mean a Spurs winner at home. But I just think West Ham might get a real good foothold there in midfield. And that's where it might just get them a point. Liam?
I totally agree. I was going to say that midfield is the area of concern, I think, for Tottenham, as well as Sarr and Skip did last night. I just think the inconsistencies will be there just because of lack of game time. And I think if Rice and Paqueta can get on the ball, which they probably will, West Ham can hurt you. So I'm going for a draw, 1-1.
Okay. Sorry. Liverpool go away to Newcastle, which is another huge game because it's something that Liverpool need to get on the road here and get going a little bit. And there's no better chance to do it than now because, this is the team, as I said, they're targeting in fourth place that they want to get to. And if they get there, they might look at a third or whatever, but that's a long way off for me. But they go there. Newcastle, they've drawn the last 2 league games. They've drawn the last 3 league games, I think, actually. Yeah, they have. They've drawn away to Palace, they've drawn at home to West Ham, and away to Bournemouth in the last 3. And they've been very consistent with what teams they've put out as well for the vast majority, and maybe it's catching them a little bit. Liverpool just need to go there and say, right, that was good on Monday night, but we need to back her up again. And with one eye, I suppose, on Tuesday against, I think it's Tuesday against Real Madrid. So it's a bit of a balancing act for Liverpool, but I think they just have to go with this is the most important game. Now we'll deal with Tuesday later, because if you look at it, what have they more chance of winning or achieving something in? It's definitely the league. I think they've more chance of getting into the top 4 than you have a winning European Cup this season. That's just the way it is, despite how good they've been in Europe for the last 4 or 5 years. And they need to go there and they need to just stand up to Newcastle. That's what I want to see from Liverpool. I want to go up and stand up to Newcastle and say, right, yeah, you've spent a load of money. Yeah, you've got some really good players in, but we're not finished yet. And I think it'll throw a real cat amongst the pigeons if Liverpool go and win. At St. James's Park. I think they do as well. I think they do. I think with Gakpo getting that first goal, Nunez is just threatening all the time. And I'm just waiting for him to score a goal, and I think he'll just go on. He seems to me like a player that if Liverpool go in a good run, he's going to benefit massively from it. And Salah gets that goal, the young lad in midfield, the 2 that come back in, experienced heads, they'll want to show that it wasn't a flash in the pan. Van Dijk could be back, Jota's fit again. So there's a lot going on at Liverpool where there'll be players now wanting to get in here and show what they're worth before the end of the season, because I think Klopp's going to move a few of these on. And you could end up in that bracket if you don't show it in the next 4 months. So Emmett says no Bruno Gomes for Newcastle this weekend. 3-1 Liverpool. I think if Monday was going to be a turning point, they're going to have to show it on Saturday and go and do it. Or listen, we're just going to go through the rest of the season and go, yeah, right, roll on August. So I'm going 3-1 Liverpool. Liam?
I think Newcastle are going through a bit of a blip here. You've brought up their 3 draws in the last 3 league games, and I think the
Yeah,
goal.
they won away at Southampton in the League Cup and lost at home to Southampton in
Yeah,
the League Cup in between.
yeah, and I just think the goals are just drying up a little bit for Newcastle. They're not, losing games, albeit, but they're not winning as well as they were, prior to this year, really. Um, so with that being said, I think Newcastle will score. It's at home. The crowd will be on their side. I'm going for 2-1 Liverpool. I think Liverpool will just turn it on and they'll have enough. And that win, albeit against Everton, it's still a derby. It's still a massive game, regardless of form. I think Liverpool will take great confidence from that. Gakpo's got his first goal, as you've rightly said. If they can put a win on on Newcastle away from home, I think that will really kickstart your season, and that's
Mm,
exactly what you need. So yeah, 2-2 on Liverpool.
yeah, I think if Liverpool were to beat Newcastle and then win the game in hand, they'd go within 3 points. I think that's how it was. That's just by
Yes.
memory from remembering the table. Jamie.
Yeah, I'm going to be slightly more cautious in saying that Liverpool are back just yet. I think there was obviously some great signs against Everton and looked like it's heading in the right direction. But especially speaking as a Spurs fan and knowing kind of, looking like we've turned the corner one
Yeah,
week, I think when you
100%.
kind of consider that there are still some weaknesses in this Liverpool team, and I think you are going to get those inconsistent season results. So I think this is going to be a tough one, but it's an interesting one because, Liam said there, and what we've highlighted, Newcastle have struggled in terms of getting results over the last couple of weeks. It's just 3 goals in 6 in the last 6 games. So,
Mm.
really poor in terms of scoring goals. So, I don't think Newcastle are going to come here and put a number past Liverpool, a number of goals past Liverpool. But I think Liverpool can get something from this. So I'm going to go for 1-1 in this one. I don't think it's going to be like a massively high scoring one. Also got to remember that whilst Newcastle have not been scoring a huge amount of goals, defensively they've been excellent. I still think they're the best defensive record in the
Yeah.
league at the moment. So, for Liverpool, obviously that's going to be a real task for them to kind of breach the defence. And so, yeah, I'm going to go for 1-1 for this one.
Okay. Before we finish up, the biggest game of the weekend is definitely Everton against Leeds. Without a shadow of a doubt. We were talking about teams at one end and the other, but this is 6-pointer written all
Yeah.
over it. Everton started so well with that win against Arsenal. They looked Liverpool literally dominated them on Monday night, and Everton looked like they gave up on about 65, genuinely. Leeds have sacked Jesse March. I don't think they've brought anyone in as of, well,
No.
the last time I checked was last night, and there's loads of names being floated around. But it's a massive, massive game for both of them because whoever loses is in massive risk of being cut adrift here. I'm looking at it already, and Wolves have done something where they've gone 5 points clear of Everton, where they were behind Everton 4 or 5 games ago, and I just think it's a huge game. So I want to get your predictions on it because as much as I will watch Liverpool, I'll definitely be keeping an eye on this one at the weekend. So Liam, Everton v Leeds.
Given it's at Goodison, I just think Dyche will rile those players up to the absolute maximum and get that crowd absolutely rocking. That I think they'll win and take a huge 3 points. They've done it against Arsenal in the first game. You can say, yeah, Dyche just came in and feel good factor around the club, and then they lost to Liverpool. But it's a derby game, and those things happen. And Liverpool are a better team than Everton by an absolute mile. There's no getting away from that. The players are completely different in quality. But against Leeds, although Leeds played really well against United twice in the space of 4 or 5 days, I just think Dyche will have them absolutely purring, ready to go straight out of the blocks. Big miss on Calvert-Lewin. He's out again for the weekend. So you've got Ellis Sims up top, who's very inexperienced and looked at against Liverpool, I thought. But I just think Dyche will get the result that Everton need, and that'll be a win. I'm going 1-0 Everton.
Okay. I'm going 1-1. Jamie?
Yeah, look, I was very positive about the appointment of Sean Dyche, and obviously we saw him coming against Arsenal and get that massive win. It was a very difficult performance against Liverpool. I thought they were very poor, but look, I think this is a game they'll certainly be like targeting as one they know they can win, and obviously with Leeds being a fellow relegation candidate, I think they're certainly going to want to try and win this one. And look, obviously Leeds, they're in the very much the opposite boat at the moment, where they haven't got a manager in place. There is a bit of uncertainty where they're going at the moment. For Everton, obviously expectations are incredibly low at the moment, but they've got that they've now got that, they've got obviously Sean Dyche in, who's going to give them a bit of stability, and I think he can do a job on Leeds on the weekend, and I think they'll keep a clean sheet, and I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for Everton here.
Good stuff. Well, it's another big weekend ahead. They just keep coming and coming. United are in. Spurs have already been in European action. United are in action at 6:15 this evening. And Liverpool, of course, next week against Real Madrid. So there's loads going on. Chelsea were beaten by Dortmund last night, weren't they, as well? So there's loads and loads going on. I think City will play Leipzig. I think they have in the Champions League. So they'll play them next week. So there's loads going on with regards to the Premier League and, of course, Europe for lots and lots of teams. And like I said, every week there just seems to be big games being thrown in everywhere. Very few of them are kind of ones where you kind of look and go, it won't really matter. So if you're watching your football this weekend, make sure you enjoy it. I hope you get the results you all want. Well, I say that, don't. But have a good time anyway. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. This channel will bring you loads of Premier League stuff. It brings you stuff on horse racing. All sorts of stuff goes on Bookmakers TV. So make sure you subscribe, and of course we'll be live every week. Fingers crossed. And you can come in here and try your comments at us, and we go from there. Liam, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. Jamie, I hope Spurs get back on the horse at the weekend, hopefully. And we'll talk to you again next week. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.